crime, healthcare, living space. They're driving up our rent, right? Stuff. I mean, for all the rhetoric and for all the talk, I thought that was pretty interesting. Like, they're getting free healthcare. My buddy, he can't get anything, and he's poor on the street, and then they're out there at the rally for Trump. And, I'm gonna pick this thing up, man. Humans are the greatest, most valuable thing. So recently, especially in the UK, there's been a lot of anti-immigration protests, a lot of debate and talk about, how we should allow immigration in our country, if we should at all, what is our culture, how much do people need to assimilate, do they need to assimilate, just a bunch of different questions, a bunch of different debates about it. And what I want to bring to you today is this fact and this concept, that this has happened many times before in history, right? Especially within the United States specifically, which is what I'll be covering, right? That people have fought and debated over the issue of immigration many, many times, right? It's nothing new in history, and they were honestly using a lot of the same arguments that people would use today, right? So what I mentioned first was the fact that there's protests going on in the UK right now. People are, furious. They're not even protests, riots, a lot of them. A lot of things going bad over there. Prime Minister's getting very upset, right? I mean, all that type of stuff. Things burning, lies going around about this person was Muslim, this person wasn't. But the main thing is that they're not happy about immigration. And what kind of inspired me to make this video is the fact that, there was an interview I listened to online of these two women at this protest, and the guy was like, so, why are you here? And they were just like, to preserve our British culture. And he was like, what is that? And then they kind of just didn't really answer the question. But, they ask other people, and of course, a lot of them are, crime, healthcare, living space. They're driving up our rent, right? Stuff like that. And those, you could say those are all valid concerns, but then there was also this thing of like, our culture. We need to preserve our culture, which I find interesting because, yeah, you can't always, put words to what culture is, but it's interesting when people bring that sort of thing up, right? So I wanted to dig a little bit deeper into immigration, anti-immigration within the U.S. And I found some things, and I think it'd be helpful for everybody just to know them. I'm not saying I'm an expert on this or anything like that. I just think it'd be interesting if we all kind of knew this and knew this history about it, and honestly knew some of the facts and some of the things I found about immigration today, and specifically illegal immigrants, because that seems to be the biggest topic within the United States, right? So, this picture, it's pretty, you've probably seen this picture floating around, but this is the heart of the American anti-immigration, issue and problem, right? Get the illegal immigrants out. They're taking our stuff, especially with President Trump. When he first came in, building the wall, getting this issue really, 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 really built up, on fire, getting it hot, right? Getting it real hot. And that's what it is right now. Very, very hot. Now, you got cities in the Northeast U.S., right? And, Chicago and other cities, right, that are, sanctuary cities, but now there's stress on the cities because they've taken in so many migrants who are immigrants from the southern and southeastern United States and brought them up, that they just don't know how to, handle the cost of housing those immigrants and everything, which sucks because they're like people, and you're just moving around like cattle. This is the heart of the issue. This is people out here protesting for this, protesting against illegal immigrants who they say cause crime, right? They're changing our culture. They're not assimilating. They're taking too many resources, right? Stuff like that. They're taking our jobs. Okay. It's very similar, what I found at least, to what people were saying in the UK, right? Culture, jobs. They're taking our resources, our culture. People are saying the same thing. And that kind of made me be like, okay, this seems like it's something that, everybody's kind of struggling with, right? Everybody kind of has this problem. Everybody's, dealing with this problem. It's something that all humans are kind of struggling with, right? And maybe it's not even about necessarily a specific immigration problem, but it's just revealing something that maybe humans have, like a tribalistic feature. I'm sure that's not too off the deep end to say that we're tribalistic and things of that nature. And I mean, I put it on this slide here. I really do think it boils down to jobs, resources, culture, and crime. I mean, I really think that that's the main issues that both people in the UK protests and the people in the American protests were saying. So I wanted to go through each one of these and really kind of see what's behind them. So I did that, right? So starting with crime. I thought this was pretty interesting. Immigrants are 60% less likely to commit crimes than U.S. born citizens. That's from Stanford, right? It was a Stanford economist specifically. I forget her name. I'll have it in the description. She found that out. And at first I was like, wow, 60% is crazy. But then I wanted to get a little bit different of a statistic because I realized the main issue is with people coming in through the southern border, right? So you could say, oh, those are all immigrants. I'm talking about those, people from South America. I'm not saying that, but somebody's probably saying that, okay? And I just wanted to address their concerns. So, it was PNAS. Yeah, PNAS did a study in Texas, and they were able to do so because the Texas Public Safety, they actually kept really good records of this stuff, which it's hard to find good records of this stuff because the study they were doing was on undocumented immigrants. And so it's hard to, get data about that. Well, what they found is undocumented immigrants in Texas compared to U.S. born citizens, right? Crime-wise, it's pretty crazy, okay? U.S. born citizens, 2 times more likely to commit violent crimes. Drug crimes, U.S. born citizens, 2.5 times as likely. And property crimes, 4 times as likely. Which, I mean, for all the rhetoric and for all the talk, I thought that was pretty interesting. To read that and to see that, I thought that was pretty, wow, okay. And that's in Texas too. And that was from 2012 to 2018? 2012 to 2018, that was happening. And I mean, that to me was kind of revealing because I honestly didn't think it was going to be that high. I had heard before, people say, no. Immigrants don't commit more crime than U.S. born citizens. But to hear that and to see that, wow. And it makes more sense the more you think about it, right? If you're here illegally, or even if you're here illegally and you're an immigrant, you're not like a citizen walking around, right? Like if you do something and you mess up, man, you might even be worried about getting deported, honestly. And so that makes sense to me. And they even mentioned that in the article is like, you would have to worry about that if you're an immigrant, right? You have to worry about getting deported and going back. Maybe you don't even want to call it home anymore. You want to call the U.S. home, but you got to go back there because you messed up. It made a lot of sense to me, right? The next of those pillars I wanted to cover was jobs. Heard this one a lot too. They're taking our jobs. And I never bought into that, honestly. Even before I did this research, I'm like, man, the immigrants I see out here hustling and working, I'm like, I genuinely don't think most of white America living in suburbia would do that. I just don't think so, man. Like, I just don't think they do it. I don't think they do it. And I had seen this too, talking about, which we'll get to it in a little bit, Chinese immigrants back, 1860, building the railroads out there in the West. They were purposely working for cheaper wages. And it wouldn't shock me if immigrants today, are purposely doing that. I know there is predatory employment practices and paying practices, and that's not good. That's bad. We need to fix that. That is violating a God-given human right for decent treatment, But they're working for cheaper, they're working harder, and above all, the stuff that they're working harder and working cheaper for, they're doing things that, man, most white America wouldn't do. You know what I mean? So I never bought into the whole thing about they're taking our jobs, and this just kind of solidified it for me. And the first point, who was the economic Economic Policy Institute wrote this, and they're pretty good. The first thing they said off the bat was like, people need to realize that the number of jobs in an economy is not it's not like a number, right? It's not like there's, you know, I don't know, 700 million jobs in the economy flat. And it's like, man, we got to cut down on these immigration numbers, man, because, man, they're all going to be gone. No. The economy grows. And when it grows, more jobs happen. And allowing more people to work these jobs that, you know, immigrants are working, illegal immigrants included, are working, is growing the economy. It's adding more jobs. Okay? And furthermore, the jobs that they're taking, that they're growing the economy with, are jobs that, like I had said, I already kind of was tapped into, and I'm really tapped into it now, are jobs that white America would never do, right? And specifically, old white America would never do, because we're also experiencing demographic problems, because white people don't have a whole lot of kids compared to other ethnicities. They don't have a whole lot of kids, right? So the white population is getting older, which is the current majority of America is the white population. So we're going to need people to do jobs that younger people would do. And wouldn't you know it, we have millions of people coming into this country each year. A lot of them are young. I mean, I don't have the specific, you know, average age off the top of my head, but if I had to guess, I mean, probably, I don't know, average below 40, right? I mean, I don't know. That's ballpark. I don't know. I'm throwing that out there. But they're young. Younger than these, you know, 55, 65, you know, it's getting up there, which is, it's not good. That's bad demographics. We don't want that. Another thing too, immigrants are often entrepreneurs, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure, I mean, that's kind of like, not majority, but they're a good portion. And when you think about like a romanticized United States, you always do think about that too, right? Like the immigrant that comes here, works hard, starts their own business. Like, do we still want that? Do you know what I mean? Like, we're so worried about them taking jobs and everything. They're not taking our jobs, okay? They have very little effect on jobs. I think the only thing the Economic Policy Institute said was the only time they might have an effect on jobs is if it's in reference to other immigrants. They might, you know, might have an effect with pay, but they were even saying then very small, very minute, right? And I'll try to put the link to all these things I was reading in the description. So jobs, I was already tapped in, already knew immigrants don't affect jobs. Yeah, they don't. Okay. Next. Yeah, this one I actually was taken off guard by. I didn't think that immigrants actually took this many resources. I always thought it was just something people threw out there, right? Like, they're getting free healthcare, and my buddy, you know, he can't get anything, and he's poor on the street, you know, and then they're out there at the rally for Trump. And I didn't think that was real, but shoot, man. 11 states, DC included, regardless of your legal status for your immigration, you can get healthcare. And originally it started for just kids, but now it's to all ages in those places, from what I understand. More states on the way. Ooh, boy. You know, for me, I've always really favored isolationist stuff. Like, I really want us to put a lot of money back home in American cities and American education, especially. Education's the root of everything. Education is the root of all of it. So you need to have education. But, man, this kind of tapped me out. I can't lie. That's a lot of money, man. Especially, you know, especially if we're not worried about their legal status for their immigration. So then you have people who are technically, I hate calling illegal immigrants illegals. I don't like that. But you got people living a literal lifestyle of illegality, if that's a word, you know, against the law. Their whole life is against the law, in the US, that is. And we're giving them this money when it's just like, man, I would kill for us to pay teachers more money. I would kill for us to do actual research and figure out how to teach our kids better. I would kill for us to have better curriculum, to get kids more engaged, to make kids more virtuous. I would kill for all that. and that money's going away. And that, man, then I saw the U.S. government. This was like 2023, so this is super fresh that the government did this. It was some report to Congress. I'm gonna look at the slide to get the number here. Yeah, yeah, plus or minus 68,000 net loss. That's not how much money we're spending on each illegal immigrant they estimated. That's net loss. That's a loss. Because they said in the report that, even though immigrants work very hard, which is what they were saying, they were actually saying more illegal immigrants work than legal U.S. born citizens work, which doesn't shock me at all. I mean, that doesn't shock me at all. It's because the jobs they have don't make enough money for them to actually contribute significantly to the tax base, right? They're not making enough money. They're not spending enough money. They're not paying enough taxes because of that to contribute more than what they were given with, free healthcare or stuff like that. And man, that's not good. That's bad. And we can't, at the same time, we can't be treating these people like an expense, right? I know another big topic in America right now is the budget, right? We're all worried about the budget. We're trillions and trillions of dollars in debt. Doesn't even register with anybody, but trillion is like an insane amount. I mean, and we're talking multiple, but I'm hesitant to treat these people just like another thing we spend money on and like cut them off the budget, just like saving them money, a little monetary expense, because they're people, right? And, like I was saying, yes, we're spending that much money on somebody who's living their life literally in crime in the U.S. by being here illegally. They're people. And for a nation that believes that rights are God-given, it's real tough to look at them and say, you don't get this stuff just because you're an immigrant. But at the same time, like, are we freely giving that out to that many citizens either? You know what I mean? It's just tough because it's a lot of money, but it's humans. If this was this much money for something stupid that we're spending that much money on, I'd say, yeah, nah, man, cut that out. But this ain't stupid. This is people's lives. This is people's health. So I'm very hesitant to say, let's cut that off. But man, oh man, that's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. Now, the last thing I was saying I felt like was a pretty common denominator in both of these, and just the protests in general, is culture. And I didn't really do any research into this one because I don't really think you need to or you can. I mean, I guess you could research what is American culture, but I always hate trying to define culture and stuff like that in like quantitative terms. That just seems silly to me because it's something that's so intangible and something that's so full of life. I don't want to make it into words and no. For me, if you were to ask me on the street, what makes you American? I would say what makes you American is the principles that are in the Constitution. That's how I would say American. Are you under that Constitution? Are you submitted to those principles, those freedoms? Like, are you submitted to protecting and giving value to your country if it calls upon you? Right? Kind of like, I guess that more of like a classical view of a citizen, right? Where that you are giving, what makes you a citizen is kind of like you're giving to the state. You're giving to the government. You're under that Constitution. When I go out there every day, I'm submitted to God, first off. But second off, it's my country, right? Like, I got to provide value for my country and for other people. And if we go to war, I got to step up if they call my name. You know what I mean? Because it's my country. I would say that's what makes you a citizen of the United States. And I just love that so much, man. Because if you were to ask somebody, like, what makes you French? What makes you German? It's like, yes, they could say the same thing. But when I say German or when I say French, that's like that's an existing ethnicity, or like Japanese, right? And yeah, there's different Germans and different French and different Japanese. But man, like, if I say I'm Japanese, like, you don't start thinking about you would probably start thinking about how I live, but you would just know I'm Japanese and then probably start thinking about how I live as a Japanese person. But I feel like what defines you, when I say I'm an American, you would immediately start thinking about my life in America, just because you can be anybody and still be an American. But the most quantitative I would go is that you're under the Constitution. And so for me, it's like, if you say, okay, Muslims are coming, right? Muslims are coming. They're not going to assimilate to our culture. I would say, what do they need to do to assimilate to our culture? And what culture are you talking about? Because America before the Industrial Revolution had a very different culture than America after the Industrial Revolution. America in the South has a different culture than America in the North and the Southwest. You know what I mean? And the Midwest. What are you talking about? Like, yes, there are some underlying values. Hard work. I guess, I don't know. I see some Americans today and I'm like, I was saying that earlier when I was talking about jobs. I see some Americans today and I'm just like, is hard work a virtue? We don't really have virtues like, that's another video. But I don't think we really have virtues like that anymore. But, I'm just like, I just don't think that's the right way to do it, man. I think it should be, this is our Constitution, the greatest Constitution ever written. How do you feel about these principles? Are you willing to give your life for this country and serve this country? Okay. Name a couple founding fathers, something like that. Get in here, bro. Get in this. Like, this is the most beautiful, craziest experiment ever. Ever. We are literally pulling in people who have religions that are so different, it's crazy. Who speak languages so different, you wouldn't believe it. We're pulling them together, and we're making billions of dollars, man. And we're not doing everything right. You know what I mean? But we can, and that's the opportunity, right? Like, all throughout American history, it's always been about the opportunity presented to us through our Constitution, right? Even when we had slavery, there was the opportunity to get rid of slavery through the Constitution and through all these different things. And through these institutions we have as a country, we can grow through those. And there's always this opportunity to make America better, make it even better than it was. And it goes through humps and lows and highs and everything like that. But it's a project. It's a constant project. This country literally started as like an experiment, man. And we're still that. We don't have a grounded culture. We don't have this is what an American is. No, bro. We're a experiment. We are an experiment. And we will always, always be an experiment. I hope, because that's what got us here. It's by being crazy. It's by saying, no, man, no. We're going to have a democratic republic. We're going to do all this different stuff. That's what makes America special. And so I hope we don't ever stop and sit down and say, no, this is our culture and they need to assimilate. I hope we just say, bring everybody in here. We all are under this Constitution and we want to make this country the greatest country ever. Let's do it together. Right? That's what I want. And that's what I think is the greatest thing ever. And that's why I love this country so much. So that leads me to what I was saying earlier. I mentioned the Chinese immigrants working in the West and how they would take lower wages, right? Stuff like that. Not only is this country, not only is this problem, you would say, multiple countries wide, I don't know how you'd say that, with the UK, with the US, and not only has it happened, pretty recently, and some of the stuff's not true. This has happened all the way back since like the 1840s, man, when we started getting big waves of immigrants in. All right. And a lot of it during the early times was Chinese, Catholic, and Irish, right? That was like one of the big first waves. Okay, with the Chinese, you know what we said? Oh, they couldn't assimilate. They're too Eastern, right? That's what they were saying over there. For the jobs, Chinese are taking our jobs, man. Especially during economic downturns when people were trying to go out west to do labor. We were saying the same thing, bro. They're taking our jobs. They're working for too cheap. We ended up completely, nobody talks about that. We literally stopped Chinese immigration for like 10 years, bro. You want to talk about a Muslim ban? Talk about that. That's crazy. This has happened. It's a cycle, bro. History is a cycle. Anyways, we had that. That was a 10-year Chinese immigration ban. We had that. And they were complaining about the jobs back then too. Crime, man, people were saying people from South Europe, bro, they're nasty, they're dirty, they commit crime, they have a tendency to commit crimes. And that was more like the second big wave in the early 1900s, which is interesting because think the article was, mentioning that, and I'll link all this stuff in the description. The article was mentioning that during the 1920s, a lot of the people hating on these new Southern European and Eastern Europeans or Western Europeans. Well, where'd these Western Europeans come from? From the 1830s, 60s, 70s, when they were coming in. Yeah, when they were getting in trouble for being Irish, for being Catholic, people were hating on them. People were beating them up, calling them names. They were getting in trouble for that. Well, then they just went ahead and turned around that many years later and started saying, nah, you're not American. Get all the... Do you see? It's a cycle, man. It's a cycle. I'm just going to go to the last slide here. We got to zoom out, man. It's a cycle. I mean, I chose this video or this picture because it's a picture of the Earth, right? Like, if you stop right now, think about yourself looking at Earth from space. Like, there are so many people on this Earth. So first off, just like take that in for a second. Calm down. Like, get out of the moment. But come back down to it and like, I really want people to understand. That's why I made this video. Is that this has been happening forever. This has been happening forever. And guess what? The people that are hating on the Southern Americans for coming in, which is a big portion of the immigrants, the people that are hating on them, and Central America, I should say, Mexico, these were probably the people who got heckled at for being Southern European and for being Eastern European. Wouldn't shock me at all, man. Wouldn't shock me at all. Or maybe they're even Jewish. I mean, dude, Jews were hated on so hard for so many years, bro. The most deadliest pandemic in history, Black Death, we literally blamed it on Jewish people, bro. Like, you can't get any more anti-immigration and anti-difference than that. This is a cycle, and it's been happening. And yeah, there's slight differences from now than back then, but it's the same mindset. It's big waves of people coming over. We don't know how to handle it. It gets messy. We figure it out. They get sucked into the American culture, which the people who were Catholic got sucked into, and the people who were Southern European got sucked into. Well, guess what? The Muslims, the Central and South Americans, they're going to get sucked into it too. And I don't know, maybe I don't even know what the next group will be. We're running out of friggin' new places in the world for people to come from. I don't know. Maybe the next group of people are coming from, I got no clue, man. But whatever characteristics they got, we're going to be calling them in 100 years. We'll be saying, nah, man. You're not with the American culture, bro. You're not with the American culture. The American culture, like, you're not okay with Muslims praying during the day. You got to get with American culture. I don't know, man. Like, it'll get assimilated. It'll get thrown in there. And I mean, personally, I would not prefer. I think Christianity is the only true religion, right? But I think religious freedom is important. And, I'm still working that out with how I think about that. But, and I'm saying that as somebody who, I wouldn't even want Islam because I think it's leading people to hell. That's just my personal view. But, bro, it gets assimilated in and it becomes the American culture. So I want to make this video today just to wrap it all up because we got a lot of problems going on in the world right now with anti-immigration. And I want people to see that, one, a lot of this stuff isn't really true. And two, that people were saying the same things that weren't really that true a long time ago and everything was okay. Everything was okay. I promise. and everything will be okay. Okay? Because this nation is the greatest nation on earth, and we have the greatest constitution on earth, and we have the opportunity every day to build something so special, okay? Something that nobody's ever seen before, because of all the different human minds we have at work. You know, I'm gonna pick this thing up, man. Humans are the greatest, most valuable thing on earth. When we come together with different minds and minds from different areas, great things happen. Beautiful things happen. And we need more of that, okay? Yeah, like I said, we got to figure out I'm not providing a solution here. I just want to say that. I can make another video about maybe a solution I think might work. But what I'm saying is, we need more immigration. It's not time to cut immigration off. Bring them in and figure out some way. Please, just figure it out. Where America, we figured out how to create a literal sun and blow up 2 cities in Japan when it was wartime. How about we figure out how to get these people documented right and quickly so they can get into this country? I don't know, man. That's my shot at a quick solution. Figure it out, man. We figured out way more stupid things, man. Go blow up 2 cities and kill a bunch of people. Let's figure this out, right? So go out there, love your country. You know, like what JFK said, right? Go do something for your country, man. And just go lock in and serve God at the same time, all right? I'll catch you on the next video.